What if the house you just bought was still trying to talk to you? That was the question stuck in my head the night I found the first message, hidden inside the wall of my brand new home. I'd moved in only 3 days earlier. Fresh paint smell, new furniture, the whole American dream vibe. Quiet neighborhood, tree-lined street. Friendly neighbors waving as they walked their dogs. Honestly, it felt perfect. Almost too perfect. The first strange thing happened while I was mounting a TV bracket in the living room. My drill suddenly punched through softer material than drywall. Curious, I widened the hole a little and felt something papery inside. I pulled it out. It was a folded note. Old. Yellowed. Edges brittle. I figured it was junk left during construction, but when I unfolded it, my stomach tightened. If you're reading this, don't stay here after dark. No signature. No explanation. Just that. I laughed it off at first. Probably a prank from contractors. Still, I didn't sleep great that night. Every creak sounded louder than usual. Every shadow seemed darker. The next morning, I decided to patch the wall properly, but curiosity got the better of me. I carefully cut a larger section of drywall. Inside the cavity, there were more notes. Dozens. Stuffed between studs like someone had been hiding them over time. Some were warnings. He listens through the vents. Lights turning on aren't electrical problems. Basin door never open it after midnight. And then one note chilled me the most. They said I moved away. I didn't. That sentence stuck with me all day. I asked the realtor about previous owners. She seemed hesitant, but told me a single guy had lived there before. Quiet type, supposedly relocated suddenly for work. No forwarding address. That didn't sit right. That night, things escalated. Around 2:13 a.m., I woke up to a faint tapping sound. Not loud, not aggressive, just rhythmic, like fingernails, gently tapping wood. It seemed to come from inside the walls. I grabbed my phone, flashlight, and walked around the house. The tapping stopped whenever I got close, then started somewhere else. Living room. Hallway, near the kitchen vent. That's when I remembered the note. He listens through the vents. Sleep wasn't happening after that. The next day, I checked the ventilation system. Mostly normal, except one vent cover in the hallway looked newer than the others. Screws shiny compared to the rest. I unscrewed it. Behind it, tucked into the duct, was another folded paper. This one was different. Messier, handwriting. Almost desperate. If you find this, please tell them I didn't leave voluntarily. Something in this house doesn't let people go. I wasn't laughing anymore. I did some online digging. Property records, old listings, neighborhood forums. Eventually, I found a vague mention. A missing resident from this address about 4 years ago. Investigation went cold quickly. No body. No suspects. Just gone. That night, the house felt heavier, like the air itself had weight. At exactly 2:13 a.m. again, the tapping returned louder this time, and accompanied by something else. Footsteps. Slow. Dragging. From the basement. I knew I should ignore it. Every horror movie rule said don't investigate, but fear, mixed with curiosity, is powerful. I grabbed a flashlight and headed downstairs. Halfway down, I smelled something musty. Not rot exactly. More like long-closed air. The basement light flickered on when I hit the switch, but the far corner stayed oddly shadowed. That's where the old storage closet was. The one I hadn't opened since moving in. Its door was slightly ajar. I was sure I'd left it closed. As I approached, the tapping sound suddenly stopped. Dead silence. I opened the closet fully. Nothing dramatic at first. Just boxers, dust, old shelving. But on the inside of the door, scratched into the wood, were words. Deep gouges, like carved with something sharp. He's in the walls. Right behind me, I heard a soft thud from inside the basement wall. Close. Too close. Then another, then a faint, whispering sound traveling through the vent overhead. Not clear words. Just the texture of speech. like someone talking from far away. I ran upstairs. No shame. Locked myself in the bedroom. Lights on all night. Next morning, I called a contractor, claiming I suspected pest problems. He checked walls, vents, basement structure. Found nothing living. No animals. No squatters. No obvious explanation, but he did say something odd. Looks like someone's opened these walls multiple times before, then sealed them back. That confirmed it. The notes weren't random. Someone had been leaving them intentionally over time. Probably the missing owner, or someone before him. Since then, I haven't found new notes, but sometimes, late at night, I still hear faint tapping. Always around 2:30 a.m. Always from somewhere I can't pinpoint. And once, just once, I swear I heard a whisper through the vent above my bed. Did you tell anyone? I haven't, because honestly, I'm not sure who or what I'd be telling them about. And some nights, when the house goes completely silent, I get the unsettling feeling the previous owner never really left, and whatever kept him here might still be deciding whether I'm staying too. Would you still buy a house if you knew the last 3 owners all left suddenly, and none of them ever explained why? That question didn't even cross my mind when I bought the place. To me, it was a steal. A big colonial-style house, a quiet street, and a price that was almost too good to be true. Sure, it had a long history built decades ago, but I thought that just gave it character. Or at least, that's what I told myself. Moving day felt completely normal. Boxers were everywhere. We ate pizza on the floor, and I was exhausted but excited. My friends joked about the creaky floors and the old staircase, but honestly, I loved that vintage charm. The first night, though, something felt off. It wasn't scary. Exactly, uncomfortable. You know that feeling when you walk into a room and completely forget why you came. It was like that, except the feeling didn't go away. The air seemed colder inside than it was outside, even with the heating on. Around midnight, I heard the first sound. Footsteps upstairs. The problem was, I was alone. I brushed it off, thinking the house was just settling. Old wood expands and contracts. That's normal stuff. I even Googled it just to reassure myself. But the next night, it happened again. Same time, slow pacing, back and forth, right across the upstairs hallway. It almost sounded deliberate. By the third night, I decided to check. I walked upstairs, my heart pounding harder than I wanted to admit. I turned the hallway light on. Every door was open. Every room was empty. Total silence. The moment I went back downstairs, the footsteps resumed right above me. That's when my unease turned into real, gut-wrenching fear. A few days later, my neighbor casually mentioned something strange while we were chatting outside. "Oh, you actually stayed," she said. I asked her what she meant. She hesitated for a moment, then told me that the previous owners hadn't lasted long. Some stayed for months, others only for weeks. They always moved suddenly, with no clear reason. The house just didn't suit them, she shrugged. But her expression told a different story. That night, curiosity got the better of me. I started researching the property's history online. Old listings, archived forum posts, anything I could find. It turned out that every previous owner had reported unusual disturbances. Nothing was officially documented, just rumors, comments on local forums, and neighborhood chatter. Cold spots, lights switching on by themselves, doors unlocking, and always the footsteps. After reading all that, I started noticing more. The thermostat would drop overnight for no reason. Kitchen cabinets would sometimes be slightly open in the morning. One time, I clearly remember locking the back door before bed, only to find it wide open at sunrise. I decided to install cameras. I figured hard evidence would either prove I was going crazy or confirm something was happening. The first few nights, nothing. Then came the footage from 3:07 a.m. one Tuesday. The upstairs hallway camera showed a shadow moving across the wall. There was no visible source, no person. Just a darker shape sliding slowly along, like someone was pacing, except they were flat against the wall. Watching it made my skin crawl. That same night, I woke up absolutely freezing. I could see my own breath in the bedroom air. The heating system display said it was working fine, and from the hallway, I heard whispering. Not clear words, just low, indistinct murmuring. It sounded like a conversation happening just behind a closed door. Maybe 2 or 3 voices, except every door in the house was open. I didn't investigate that time. I just stayed under the covers until sunrise. Sleep became almost impossible after that. The anxiety was constant. Even during the day, the house felt heavy, almost watchful. My friends stopped wanting to visit, saying the place gave them bad vibes. One friend swore she saw someone standing at the top of the stairs until she looked again, and nothing was there. The breaking point came about a month after I moved in. I came home from work, and every single interior door was closed. The bedroom, the bathroom, the office, even the closets all shut tight. I distinctly remembered leaving them all open that morning. As I started walking upstairs, a cold draft hit me. This wasn't natural airflow. It felt like opening a freezer. My ears even popped slightly from the sudden temperature shift. Then, the footsteps started again, but this time they weren't above me. They were behind me. Slow, heavy, matching my own pace as I climbed the stairs. I spun around. Nothing. Absolutely nothing there. Yet the sound continued for another 2 steps, and then stopped. That night, I packed my essence. I told myself it was just temporary, just until I felt normal again. But here's the weirdest part. The moment I decided to leave, the house went completely silent. No footsteps, no cold spots, no whispers. It was almost like it knew. I moved out officially 2 weeks later. I didn't even try to sell it at first, I just wanted to get away. Since then, 2 more families have bought that house. Both of them left within a year. They gave the same vague reasons. Discomfort, unexplained activity, an inability to sleep. No one ever files an official complaint. No investigations ever find anything wrong. On paper, it's just an old house, but sometimes I think about those footsteps, always passing, never stopping, and I wonder, was it something trapped there? Something territorial? Or was it something that was simply deciding who gets to stay? Because if there's one thing I'm certain about, it's that the house didn't feel empty. It felt occupied, and it was not very welcoming to new owners. Here's a question for you. If your security camera showed someone inside your house, but you knew you were completely alone, would you keep watching? That question still messes with my head, because that's exactly what happened to me just 3 months after moving into my new home. The place itself wasn't scary. It was actually perfect. A nice suburban neighborhood, quiet street, and a decent price for the size. The only slightly unusual thing was the unfinished basement. Concrete floor, exposed pipes, and this one old storage room in the corner with a heavy wooden door. Nothing dramatic, just creepy in the way basements usually are. I work long hours, often late shifts, so getting security cameras felt like a smart move. I put them everywhere. Front yard, backyard, living room, hallway, and one in the basement, mostly because packages sometimes got stored down there. For weeks, nothing happened. The cameras showed exactly what you'd expect. An empty house, occasional shadows from passing headlights, normal stuff. Then came that Friday night. I was at work when my phone buzzed with a motion alert from the basement camera. This wasn't unusual. Sometimes the heating pipe shifting would trigger it. But when I opened the app, I just froze. Someone was down there. At least, it looked like someone. A tall, dark figure was standing near the storage room door. It wasn't moving much. Just there. I zoomed in. The footage was grainy. The light was low. It could have been a shadow, I told myself. Maybe a trick of perspective. Tenit, moved slowly. 1 step sideways, very deliberate. My blood ran cold. I immediately checked the other cameras. No sign of anyone entering the house. Doors were locked. Windows were secure. It didn't make any sense. I called a neighbor to check the house while I raced back from work. By the time we both got there, the basement was empty. Completely normal. No signs of forced entry. Nothing was missing. My neighbor joked about ghosts. I laughed too, but honestly, I didn't feel like laughing at all. That night, I reviewed all the footage, and at exactly 1:42 a.m., the figure appeared again. Same spot. Same slow, eerie movements. Then, after about 2 minutes, it stepped toward the storage room door. and the video glitched, just static and pixel distortion. When the feed cleared, the basement was empty again. On Saturday, I convinced myself it was just a camera malfunction. Cheap equipment does weird stuff sometimes, right? Still, I replaced the batteries, updated the firmware, and even adjusted the camera angle. Sunday night, it happened again. Same time. Same figure. This time, though, something new stood out. The storage room door behind it was slightly ajar. I was absolutely certain I'd left it closed earlier that day. I didn't sleep much that night. Monday morning, I went down to check in the daylight. The storage room smelled stale and unused. Just old shelves, leftover paint cans, and random junk from the previous owners. Nothing seemed out of place, except for one thing. On the inside wall, there were faint scratch marks, like someone had dragged something heavy, repeatedly, across the concrete. I hadn't noticed those before. That night, I stayed awake on purpose. I wanted to see if anything would happen while I was home and alert. Around 1:40 a.m., the basement camera alert popped up on my phone again. My heart was pounding, but I quietly headed downstairs. Halfway down, I heard it. A soft shuffling sound, exactly like what I'd seen on the footage. But when I burst into the basement, nothing. Silence. Just an empty space. The camera was still recording, but there was no figure visible. Yet I couldn't shake the feeling that I'd just missed something. Over the next week, the pattern continued. The figure would appear on camera when I wasn't home, or when I was asleep, but never when I actively went down to check immediately. It was almost like it was avoiding a direct confrontation. Then came the night that changed everything. A bad storm was raging outside. Heavy rain, occasional thunder. The power flickered briefly around midnight, but came back on quickly. At exactly 1:42 a.m., all my cameras triggered simultaneously. Not just the basement, the hallway, the living room, the backyard. Every single feed showed a slight distortion, like some kind of interference. And on the basement camera, the figure wasn't alone anymore. There were two. The second one was smaller, crouched near the storage room door. The first, taller figure was standing closer to the camera than it ever had before. I could almost make out a head tilt, as if it was looking straight into the lens, watching me watch it. That thought hit me so hard. I rushed downstairs immediately. I flipped on the lights. The basement was empty, but the storage room door was wide open. I know for a fact I hadn't left it that way. Inside, the air felt colder than the rest of the basement. Noticeably colder, enough that I saw my own breath for a second. And that's when I heard it. A faint whisper. Right behind me, he spooned around nothing there. Yet, the whisper continued for another second. It was too low to understand, but it was definitely human-like. I got out of that basement fast. I locked the door at the top of the stairs. The next day, I called professionals, electricians, security technicians, even a structural inspector. Everyone said the same thing. There are no intruders. There are no system faults. We can't find anything abnormal. But none of them had to watch that footage at 1:42 in the morning. Eventually, I stopped going into the basement entirely unless it was absolutely necessary. The cameras still run. The alerts still happen occasionally. Sometimes it's just motion blur. Sometimes it's not. But the most disturbing part, last week, while reviewing the footage, I noticed something new. The tall figure wasn't just standing there anymore. It was closer to the stairs than ever before. And the smaller figure, it looked like it was halfway up the first step. I don't know what's down there. I don't know if it's real, psychological, or something else entirely. But I do know this. I never hear any movement when I'm actually downstairs. I only hear it when I'm upstairs, trying to sleep. And every time I check the camera now, I hesitate before pressing play. Because one day, I'm terrified I won't just see them in the basement. I might see them standing right at the top of the stairs. Thanks for listening. If you've ever had a weird experience with a security camera, let me know in the comments. And if you like strange stories like this, make sure to follow for more. Stay safe out there.